At my wedding, my future father-in-law pulled me aside and whispered, "You're making a mistake. He's already married." I thought he was drunk, until my husband's other wife showed up at the reception holding a baby. She yelled, "I deserve a cake too." I was standing behind the reception hall, still in my wedding dress, when my future father-in-law grabbed my arm hard enough to stop me in my tracks. The music inside was loud, everyone laughing and clinking glasses, totally clueless that my entire reality was about to tilt sideways. He leaned in close, his breath hot with whiskey, and whispered, "You're making a mistake. He's already married." I actually laughed. I thought he was trying to make some kind of dark joke. He looked drunk enough to mix up his words, and we'd all been stressed from the hectic morning. I just said, "Okay, Tom. Go sit down, I'll send water." But he gripped tighter. His eyes were clearer than I expected. "I'm serious. He has a wife, a real one." For a second, the world felt like it skipped a beat, but I still brushed him off because everything up to that moment had seemed too stable, too normal for something this insane to be real. I mean, I just married the guy. I had signed the papers. We stood in front of 120 guests. My parents were inside beaming. His friends were toasting. There was no way my brand new husband, Michael, was secretly married. I told myself Tom was drunk, confused, or maybe warning me about some ex he still considered a wife. Like how some parents never let go of past relationships. I forced a smile, pulled my arm free, and walked back inside. I didn't even make it 5 steps before I heard commotion near the dessert table. Loud voices, gasps, someone dropping a stack of plates. Then a woman's voice rose above everything, strong and furious. "I deserve a cake too." I turned just as the crowd parted like a movie scene. And there she was. A woman about my age, maybe a little older, wearing jeans, a messy bun, and holding a baby on her hip. The baby was crying, red-faced and stressed from the noise. She looked exhausted, like she'd driven straight from somewhere without stopping, anger fueling her the whole way. She locked eyes with me. "I'm his wife," she said, pointing at Michael with a shaking hand. "Not ex, wife, as in legally currently right now." The room exploded into noise, guests whispering, someone shouting for security, my mother rushing toward me with her hands over her mouth. But I swear all the sound dropped out around me. It felt like my brain shut down, like I suddenly couldn't process English. My new husband, still in his tux, still holding a champagne glass, went completely pale. Then he said the worst possible thing, "Jessica, we can talk about this later." Later, not "she's lying," not "I don't know her," not "there's a mistake." Just later, the woman, his wife, laughed bitterly. "Oh, you want to talk later. After you finish your second wedding of the year. After you cut your cake with your new bride while I'm home feeding your son." Son. I don't know what hit me harder, the word wife or the word son. My stomach twisted so fast I genuinely thought I might throw up on my wedding dress. My maid of honor grabbed my elbow, asking if I needed water, but her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. The baby started crying louder, and Michael finally set down his glass and stepped toward the woman, toward them, and all I could do was stare. His father's warning slammed back into my head. He's already married. And then something happened, something small, but something that changed everything I thought I understood about the situation. Because when his wife shifted the baby, I saw it. The baby's little wrist, and the matching hospital bracelet, with a date on it. A date that explained way more than I was ready to face. People always say you can tell when something is off in a relationship, but honestly, I didn't see a damn thing. Not one red flag that pointed to secret wife and newborn baby levels of deception. I met Michael in Austin about 2 years ago. I was working as a project coordinator for a construction firm, and he showed up one morning as the new structural engineer assigned to one of our big builds. He was quiet, polite, almost awkward in a way that felt safe. Not exciting, not flashy, just steady. At least, that's what I thought. We started eating lunch together on site, then grabbing tacos after work. He wasn't a talker, but when he opened up, he seemed thoughtful. He said he'd been through a rough breakup a year before and wasn't ready to jump into anything fast. I respected that. I'd been burned before, too. For months, he kept things slow. Sunday brunches, movie nights, walks around town lake. He never love-bombed me, never pressured me, never gave me that uneasy, too-good-to-be-true feeling. Looking back, that was part of the trap. His distance wasn't emotional maturity, it was him living a double life. The first time I visited his place, it was spotless, minimalist, a little too plain for a single guy, but I chalked it up to engineer brain. I never saw anything feminine. No hair ties, no makeup bag, no woman's clothes in the closet. I didn't know that was because his real home was somewhere else. I asked once why he didn't have many personal items. He just shrugged and said, "I don't like clutter." We dated for a year before he proposed. He did it on a roof deck downtown during sunset. The whole thing felt romantic but simple. He didn't do the big crowd or surprise camera thing, just us, champagne, and a ring he said he picked out himself. I cried. I said yes right away. My parents loved him. My friends all said, "He seems so solid." Even my brother, who hates every guy I date, said Michael was probably the least bad one. I had no idea that during the entire time we were dating, there was a woman across town who thought she was his wife, because legally she was. According to what I'd later learn, they'd married young, separated briefly, and then reconciled. Quietly. Without telling anyone outside their families, including me. I had met his father a few times, and he always seemed uncomfortable around me. I thought he just had that gruff, old-school dad vibe. Turns out, he wasn't uncomfortable with me. He was uncomfortable with the nightmare secret he knew his son was hiding. Fast forward to the wedding planning. Michael was helpful, present, and even excited. He picked the venue with me. He tasted cakes. He helped choose the DJ. He stood next to me practicing our dance in my apartment kitchen. He looked into my eyes and told me he couldn't wait to build a life with me, all while his real wife was 8 months pregnant. There were small things I should have questioned, weekends when he had work travel. Evenings, he said he was too tired to hang out, the fact that he never introduced me to extended family. But you don't jump to bigamy. You jump to stress, new job, introversion, normal reasons, not he has another family. And now I couldn't unsee that hospital bracelet on the baby's wrist, the date printed on it. A date only 3 weeks before my wedding. The moment I saw that hospital bracelet, everything inside me went cold. You know that feeling when your body realizes the truth before your mind does? That sinking, hollow drop in your stomach. That was me standing in my own wedding dress, watching my husband's other wife bounce their newborn to calm him down. 3 weeks old. 3 weeks. Meaning that while I was having my bridal shower, while he was helping me finalize seating charts, while he was holding me in bed and saying he couldn't wait to call me his wife, he already was a husband. And a father. A father who had apparently been present enough to be listed on the hospital bracelet as the baby's registered parent. And yet he was also planning a wedding with me. My brain felt like someone poured boiling water into it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to faint. I wanted to punch him in the face. But all I did was stare while the room spun and people whispered around me. My mom reached for me, her voice shaky. "Sweetie, let's step outside," but I shook her off. I needed answers. I needed to hear him say something, anything that made sense. Michael finally turned toward me. His face looked frozen, like a man caught in headlights he had set up himself. "Let's talk in private," he said quietly. Private? He cheats, lies, commits bigamy, and suddenly he wants privacy. His other wife, Jessica, laughed so sharply it cut through the room. "Oh, now you want privacy. After you married her in front of 100 people while I was texting you from the delivery room," people around us gasped. My head snapped toward her. "Texting him when you were giving birth," she nodded, eyes blazing. He left the hospital that morning to grab a shower and change. Never came back. I thought he got in an accident. I called his dad. His dad said he didn't know where Michael was. Turns out he was at your damn rehearsal dinner. I felt something crack open inside my chest. A deep, nauseating kind of betrayal that didn't even feel real yet. I turned to his father, who looked sick. "You knew." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I tried to warn you." "Warn me." He whispered one sentence 10 minutes before I said myvows. "That's not warning, that's panic." Michael put his hands up like he was calming a hostage situation. "Listen, I can explain." "Explain," I said, my voice strangely calm. "Too calm. Explain how you married me while you were already married to her." Guests were filming. I saw at least 4 phones up. People weren't even pretending to be subtle anymore. "I thought we were done," he said. "Jessica and I separated last year. We didn't think we'd get back together. The baby wasn't planned." "Oh, shut up," Jessica snapped. "You literally slept with me the same week you proposed to her." Someone dropped a drink behind me. My maid of honor whispered, "Holy shit," under her breath. I blinked at Jessica. "The same week," she nodded. "He told me he needed time, that we were working things out, that I shouldn't worry if he was distant because of work. And then one day his phone buzzes on the counter while he's in the shower, and I see a calendar reminder pop up. Engagement ring pickup. My knees almost buckled. Jessica continued, "When I confronted him, he said it was a misunderstanding and he wasn't sure he'd actually go through with it. Then he ghosted me for 5 days. When he came back, he said he wanted to try to fix things for real, and like an idiot, I believed him." I stared at Michael. "So were you planning to tell her, or me, ever?" His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I was trying to figure out the right time. I laughed, a broken, stunned, humorless sound. Then everything got worse, because Jessica looked at me and said, "You don't even know the half of it, do you?" I froze. "What does that mean?" She hesitated, just a second, but it was enough to tell me there was more. A lot more. Michael paled, and I realized this wasn't just a cheating situation. This was something darker, something planned. Something he thought he could get away with. Jessica shifted the baby to her other arm, looked straight at me and said, "He didn't just marry you behind my back, he used you." Those words landed like a hammer to my ribs. I stared at her, then at him. "Used me for what?" She hesitated, like she wasn't sure how far to go in front of 100 people. But then she looked around, at the cameras, at the guests whispering, at Michael standing there with the face of a man watching his lies collapse in real time, and she decided she didn't care anymore. "For your job," she said. "For your company, for your connections." My whole body went cold. "What? Why would he?" Jessica cut me off. "Do you know how many times he talked about your company's contracts? How every time you came up in conversation, it was never about you. It was about your job, your boss, the projects you manage. He told me you were his in." My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd throw up on my dress. I shook my head slowly. "No, no, he wouldn't." But even as I said it, memories started firing off like bullets. Him asking casual questions about project budgets. Him showing sudden interest when I talked about new contracts. Him encouraging me to invite a certain project director to the wedding. Him telling me not to quit my job even when I was burned out. Him calling my firm a goldmine of opportunity. I never thought anything of it. I thought he was proud of me. Jessica kept going. "He told me once, during one of our working on it phases, that if he could just get his foot into a few of your company's big builds, he'd be set for years. He said engineers spend a decade trying to get those kinds of contracts, and he might have found a shortcut." My knees nearly buckled. My maid of honor whispered to me, "Oh my God," Michael finally snapped. "Stop it, Jessica. You're twisting everything." She glared at him. "No, I'm telling her the truth you never planned to tell anyone." I turned to him. "Is any of this true?" His jaw clenched. "It's not what you think." That wasn't a no. That was never a no. Jessica wasn't done. "He didn't plan to marry you this soon. The baby changed the timeline." I blinked. "What?" Michael's head whipped toward her. "Jessica, don't," but she didn't stop. "He proposed to you because he needed someone stable, someone polished, someone with a clean image for the career moves he was planning. He told me in January that you were perfect on paper." His words, not mine. I felt dizzy. "What the hell does that even mean?" Jessica looked directly into my eyes. "It means he groomed you into the role he needed. A wife who looked good standing next to him in meetings. A wife who could get him in rooms with people who sign million-dollar checks." My skin crawled. Every romantic gesture he'd ever made suddenly felt like a calculation. Then Jessica dropped the real bomb. "He wasn't planning to leave me, not really. He told me once, when he thought I was asleep, that the smartest men marry twice, one for stability, one for loyalty." Something snapped inside my chest. A sharp, tearing sensation I swear I could physically feel. Michael stepped toward me, hands raised like he could put the truth back into the box. "Listen, I love you, I just things got complicated." Complicated. That was the word he used to describe having a wife, a newborn, and a second wife with a career he wanted to leech off of. Jessica let out a bitter laugh. "Tell her the last part, Michael. Tell her what you told me about her family." He went dead still. My pulse spiked. "What about my family?" Jessica's eyes softened, not for him, but for me. "He wasn't just using your job," she said. "He was using your parents too." I stared at her numb. "Why?" Her voice dropped. "Because he found out they're about to inherit money, and he said marrying you would lock in his financial future." My breath caught. Because that part was true. The inheritance was real, but almost no one knew. I don't remember walking out of the reception hall. I just remember suddenly being outside in the cold Austin evening air, my wedding dress dragging across the concrete, guests staring at me through the glass like I was some tragic exhibit. My mind felt split in half, one part replaying everything Jessica said, the other part silently screaming. He used me. He used my job. He used my family. He was never going to leave her. He was going to keep both of us. I leaned against a brick wall, gripping it so hard my nails bent backward. My maid of honor, Erin, followed me out, her face pale and furious. "Say the word," she said. "I'll stab him with a cake knife right now." I almost laughed, but it came out as a strangled sound instead. "What do I do?" I whispered. "First," she said, "you don't go back in there." But I shook my head. "Oh, I'm going back in. Just not for him." That was the moment the anger finally broke through the shock. It hit fast and hot, a clarity I hadn't felt all day. I wasn't going to be the quiet, broken bride everyone pitied. Not tonight. Not after what he'd done. I straightened up. He wants access to my job, my family, my reputation. Fine, let him watch every single one slip out of his hands. Erin nodded like she'd been waiting for this. "We need a plan," she said. I wiped my face, smearing makeup across my cheeks. "Not just a plan, proof. If he thinks he's walking out of here with nothing but embarrassment, he's wrong. I want consequences. Real ones, career ones. Legal ones, financial ones. Because if he married me while already married, that wasn't a messy breakup. That was a crime." Erin pulled out her phone. "The good news is, half your guests filmed everything. The bad news is, your mom is crying in a bathroom stall." I sucked in a shaky breath. "She'll be okay. She'll be furious once she stops crying." "And your dad?" Erin asked carefully. "My dad," I said, "is probably planning how to bury him in the parking lot. But he wouldn't have to. Not if I played this right." I called my brother, who was inside somewhere threatening hotel staff for answers. He answered on the second ring. "You good?" he asked. "No," I said. "But listen, I need you to do something." "What?" "Find out if they got pictures of Michael signing the marriage license today." Silence. "Are you kidding? They definitely did. The photographer took like 20. "Good," I said. "We need copies." "Why?" "Because when you file bigamy charges, screenshots hit harder with evidence." He let out a low whistle. "Damn, okay. I'll handle it." Next, I called my dad. His voice was tight. "Sweetheart, where are you?" "Outside," I said, "but I need you to do me a favor, quietly." "Anything." "Find the venue manager and have them lock down the guest list sign-in sheet. And get security footage of the entrance. I want proof of everyone who came today, including Jessica." He didn't even ask why. "On it." I turned back to Erin. "Next step, I want to talk to Jessica." Erin blinked. "You sure?" "Yes," I said. "If anyone hates him more than I do right now, it's her. And I want to know everything he told her. Every lie, every timeline, every motive." She nodded. "Let's go get her." But as we walked back toward the building, Jessica came out first, baby asleep against her shoulder, her face exhausted. She looked at me, and for the first time since she arrived, her expression wasn't anger. It was sympathy. "You didn't deserve this," she said quietly. "Neither did you," I replied. We stood there for a moment, two women whose lives had been detonated by the same man. And then Jessica took a deep breath and said, "There's something else you need to know, something I didn't say inside." I felt my chest tighten. "Another lie," she shook her head slowly. "No, something worse." I swallowed. "How much worse?" Jessica looked down at her sleeping baby, then back at me. "It's about why he married you at all." I frowned. "For my job, for the inheritance." She hesitated. Then she said, "No. There's something bigger." Before I could ask what she meant, the reception doors opened behind us, and Michael stepped out. And from the look on Jessica's face, he knew exactly what she was about to reveal. The second Michael stepped outside, Jessica's entire body stiffened. She shifted the baby protectively, like she expected him to lunge or yell or try to drag her away. He didn't do any of that. Instead, he froze in the doorway, face gray, eyes sharp, jaw locked. Like a man terrified of what was about to come out of her mouth. He said my name once, quiet, controlled. "Can we please just—" "No," I snapped. "You're done talking. Jessica was saying something." His eyes flicked to her, a warning. A threat disguised as panic. And that's when I knew she wasn't being dramatic. Whatever she was holding back was something he desperately did not want spoken out loud. Jessica looked at me, then at him, then back at me. You think he married you for your job or your family money, she said softly, but that's not the reason he rushed the wedding. My skin prickled. Then why? She let out a shaky breath. Because of his debt. My brain stuttered. His what? His gambling debt, she said. A lot of it. A number I didn't even know was possible for a normal person to rack up. He was betting on everything: sports, crypto, online casinos, recklessly for years. I stared at her. Then at him. He didn't deny it, not even a word. Jessica kept going. He promised me he'd stop after we found out I was pregnant. He swore the baby changed everything. But a week later, he emptied our savings account. $8,000, gone. A wave of heat flushed up my neck. She wasn't done. And when that wasn't enough, he went to a private lender. Not a bank, a man, a very bad man. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Michael stepped forward. Stop, Jessica, stop. She stepped back. No, she deserves the truth. What do private lenders have to do with me? I demanded. Jessica answered without hesitation. He told them he was about to marry into money. I felt physically sick. My parents don't even have money, not yet. Jessica nodded. I know, but the inheritance, the one coming when your grandfather passes, the one hardly anyone knows about. I froze. No one should have known about that. Not unless they'd been going through my private things or listening to conversations they had no business hearing. Michael's silence was enough confirmation. He told them, Jessica said, he told them he'd have access soon, that marrying you would stabilize everything, that once the inheritance hit your family, he could pay them back with interest. Aaron whispered, Jesus Christ. I pressed my hand to my stomach. I thought I might throw up. Jessica wasn't finished. They're not patient men, she said. They wanted proof he wasn't lying, proof he was really marrying you. He needed the marriage certificate. That's why he rushed the wedding. Not because he loved you, not because he wanted to start your life together. She swallowed hard. He did it to save himself. My wedding dress suddenly felt like it weighed 50 pounds. Michael finally snapped. It wasn't like that. It wasn't. She's twisting everything, Jessica rounded on him. Then say the number. He froze. I looked between them, heart pounding. What number? She stared him down. Say the amount you owe. He didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't move. Jessica answered for him. $217,000. My vision blurred for a second. 217,000. Jessica continued, voice cracking. He told them you were his way out. He told them marrying you would fix everything. That once he had access to your family's money, he could settle the debt. And if he couldn't, they'd deal with it another way. A chill crawled down my spine. Another way. That phrase echoed in my head, heavy and terrifying. I stared at Michael. You don't accidentally marry two women. You don't accidentally father a baby while planning a second wedding. You don't accidentally rack up six-figure debt and look at another human being as your escape route. And suddenly, every strange moment in our relationship made a horrifying kind of sense. He didn't just betray me. He targeted me on purpose. Calculated, cold, predatory. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say anything, Michael stepped toward me again. Not angry, not apologetic, something worse, desperate. His voice low. Please. You don't understand what they'll do if... I stepped back like he was radioactive. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I saw fear in his eyes. For a few seconds after I stepped back from him, no one spoke. Even the distant noise from the reception had gone quiet, like the whole building was holding its breath. Michael looked at me with a kind of panic I hadn't seen yet, not anger, not shame, not even guilt. Real fear, the kind that lives in a person's bones. I thought it was fear of being exposed. I was wrong. It was fear of being cut off from his lifeline. I crossed my arms. You used me to get out of debt. You married me for money. What else is there? What other possible explanation makes any of this worse? Jessica shifted uncomfortably, like she didn't want to say it. But then she looked at the baby sleeping against her chest, touched the soft little head, and something hardened in her eyes. She lifted her gaze to me. He didn't just see you as a way out, she said. He saw you as a way forward. I frowned. Forward to what? Jessica exhaled slowly. To disappearing. The back of my neck went cold. What? She continued quietly, each word landing heavy and precise. He told the lender, this guy, this man he owes money to, that once he married you, he'd have access to a clean identity. A clean life. A life with no debt, no record, no trail. I blinked, confused. What are you talking about? Jessica looked straight at me and said, he planned to take your name. I stared at her. That doesn't even make. He wasn't joking. Her voice shook. He called your name fresh, safe, untouched. He said no one would look for him under your family's identity because you're clean, your credit is spotless, your work history is stable. You were the perfect face to stand behind. My stomach twisted so violently I had to grip the railing. He didn't want my money. He wanted me, as a shield, as camouflage, as a new skin to crawl into and hide behind. I whispered, you're saying he married me to, what? Start over under my name. Jessica nodded. He was planning to legally change his last name to yours, merge accounts, move in with you officially, and then his words, reset the board. Reset the board. I remembered him saying it once months ago during a dumb conversation about life goals. I'd thought it was philosophical. But now it sounded like a predator describing strategy. Jessica lowered her voice even more. He told the lender that marrying you would make him untouchable. That once everything was tied to you, bank accounts, credit, home address, if anyone came after him, they'd have to go through you. My chest tightened. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Her face softened with guilt. Because I didn't know until after the baby was born. And when I tried to confront him, he said if I told anyone, it'd put me and the baby in danger. A chill swept through me. Danger from who? Jessica swallowed. The men he borrowed from, they don't just take money, they take collateral, they take people. My stomach lurched. Michael finally stepped forward, voice low, urgent. I was trying to protect all of us. If I could just fix the debt, I cut him off. By hiding behind me, he didn't answer, because that was exactly what he planned. Jessica looked at him with pure disgust. Tell her the last part. Tell her what you told me when you thought I was too tired to remember. He closed his eyes like the words physically hurt. I stared at him. What is she talking about? Jessica didn't wait. She whispered. He said someone like you would never suspect him, that you'd never run, that you were safe, that you were loyal enough and isolated enough that he could build a whole new life behind your back and you just stay. My throat went dry. He didn't choose me because he loved me. He chose me because he thought I was easier to manipulate. He thought I was predictable, soft, convenient, a cover story with a heartbeat. Jessica stepped back, holding her baby tighter. He didn't just betray you, he calculated you. Every step. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. Then I looked at Michael, really looked at him. You weren't planning a life with me, I said. You were planning a hideout. His silence confirmed everything. And in that moment, something inside me turned sharp. Cold, unshakable, because I finally understood exactly what kind of man he was. And I knew, without a doubt, what kind of revenge he deserved. Walking back into that reception hall felt like walking into the aftermath of a tornado. Tables knocked askew, guests whispering in tight circles, the cake half smashed on the floor where Jessica had slammed her hand earlier. And in the middle of it all stood Michael, looking like a man suspended between fight and flight, and realizing both options were gone. People watched me, some with sympathy, some with curiosity, some with that morbid fascination people get when someone else's life blows up in front of them. I didn't care, I wasn't embarrassed anymore. I was focused, cold, clear. I went straight to the mic by the DJ booth. The room fell silent as soon as I touched it. Hi, I said, voice steady. I'm the bride. Or apparently one of them. A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the room. I continued, I know you've all gotten bits and pieces of what just happened, so let me give you the full story before anyone leaves. Michael stepped forward. Don't, I raised my hand and he froze. Not because he respected me, because he feared what I might say. I told everyone everything. The secret wife, the newborn, the debt, the plan to use me, the plan to take my name. The predatory way he studied my life like a blueprint he could live inside. I kept it factual. Calm, collected. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't give him any emotional out. By the time I finished, the room felt colder than the December air outside. Michael tried to speak. It wasn't like, but my father stepped in front of him, his voice low and steady. Son, you need to sit down before you dig any deeper. The guests parted around him like he was contagious. I handed off the mic, turned and walked out, but not before giving the signal. because every piece of revenge I wanted was already in motion. My brother intercepted the photographer and secured all photos of the signing of the marriage license. My father got the venue manager to download entrance footage. Aaron collected statements from guests who had recorded everything, including Jessica's entire confrontation. And Jessica herself gave a written timeline of her marriage, pregnancy, and Michael's lies. Within an hour, we had a full folder, digital and physical, documenting his bigamy, fraud, and intent to commit identity-related crimes. I changed out of my dress in the bridal suite, put my hair in a ponytail, washed my ruined makeup, and walked straight to the car with Aaron. We drove to the Travis County Sheriff's Office. We filed charges, all of them: bigamy, fraud, coercive control, financial deception. Proof he attempted to use my identity for financial evasion. Everything Jessica said. She backed it up, and she agreed to testify. The detectives took one look at the evidence and said, "Yeah, we'll be picking him up tonight." And they did. He was arrested in the hotel parking lot in front of at least 40 wedding guests. Jessica called me that night with a shaking voice. "They came to my place too," she said. "The lender's guys, asking where he was. I told the police." I drove straight to her apartment and stayed there until officers confirmed she and the baby would be placed under temporary protection. It wasn't friendship, it was survival. 2 weeks later, Jessica filed for divorce. I filed for annulment. The lender? Police got involved once they realized the debt was tied to criminal loan sharking. Those men had to back off fast. As for Michael, he lost his engineering license, then his job, then any chance of crawling into anyone else's life unnoticed again. His mugshot made local news. My company banned him from all future projects. My parents' lawyer locked down the inheritance so tightly he couldn't touch it even in theory. He tried calling me from jail. I blocked him after the first attempt. The last time I heard anything about him, he was still insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Sure, a misunderstanding with 2 wives, a newborn, 6-figure criminal debt, forged identity plans, and a destroyed career. My life didn't break that night, it sharpened. And when people ask me now what my wedding day was like, I tell them the truth. I didn't get a marriage, but I did get justice. And honestly, that felt like the better deal.